No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey gardeners, hope you've been having a great week. We haven't actually done a video intro for a while, so I thought I'd get out here, show you some of these really awesome, beautiful flowers that we've got blooming all over the garden right now as spring is on its way. Now, let's get growing. All right. We are finally on the air here on Let's Get Growing, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I hope everything is going all right, sounding all right. Please let me know if we got any issues right off the top of the show here. We've got everybody waiting, and I thank you so much for waiting, you all. I see that we've already kind of started a conversation in the chat box there too, as we had kind of an issue with two different things kind of happening at once. I needed to do a very last minute reboot on this very terrible computer that is here to run our show. And a reboot really means that pretty much that 15 minutes there in order to be able to get that done. And then as this is finally starting to reboot, look like it's loading up, I'm starting to notice I've got some internet connection issues. Something that probably happened during the whole reboot or something, I don't know. But then I had to go and get that figured out so that we could get actually loaded onto the internet. So yeah, it's definitely time for me to be thinking about maybe some fixes and getting something better for this issue, because yeah, that was quite a bite of time out of our show today. So yeah, I really apologize for that. Again, thank you all so much for kind of hanging in there and waiting for us to get going today. And welcome. It's Saturday, and here we are. It's the Let's Get Growing show here on the Urban Gardener channel, and I'm Enoch, and I'm the host for the show today. And again, we are continuing along with our kind of just really what I call, I guess, a one-on-one, one on all of you kind of live stream, where we get to just kind of hang out, chat, talk about some different things. I've got one big thing we're going to talk about here just a little bit later on in the show, and then just hopefully have a nice conversation. So be sure to get in the into the chat box there, and let me know you're here. Let me know what you got growing on. If you got any questions, comments, or anything like that, and then maybe we'll feature that on the show here. Love questions. Definitely drop questions in there, or anything. It really, let me know what you got growing on. Really helps us kind of keep that conversation moving along as we move through the show here today. And again, right at the top of the show, though, I always like to make sure I'm giving a big, huge shout out to all of those who are watching on the replay. Thank you for watching. And for all of you on the replay watching, you kind of saved yourself all of that time that it took us to get everything started today. So again, I thank our live viewers for that. And again, also a huge shout out for all of you watching on the replay. It's really great to have you along with us here too, watching when you get a chance to watch. And definitely get down into the comment section below and let us know that you are here. And for everyone else, for sure, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share with all of your friends. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show and all of the awesome conversations we have here on the show. We've got lots and lots coming up here. I've got a lot to start announcing and talking about here in the next couple of weeks. We will be here. I will tell you though, for sure, We will be getting the show started, the actual Let's Get Growing show, more so than just these live streams we've been doing here during the last several weeks here as we got into the new year. But we will be launching the new show on March 9th. March 9th is going to be our very first show. And we're going to have back with us the most popular guest that we had last year on the show, had the most views for any of our shows that we had. We're going to have returning with us to start out our new season, Nate Meary from Garden Like a Viking. It's going to be really awesome to have him on, and then plenty of more guests and all of that more to talk about as we get going on in the next coming weeks. As I said, we are also going to be launching, and I hope this really works out too, but we are going to also be launching the extension of this show. The extension of the show, I kind of teased about this, talked about this just a little bit a few weeks ago, but we are going to be launching a Sunday edition of the show. It's going to be the same time right here on the same channel, but on Sunday. So we're going to do Saturdays and Sundays. I've got some really cool things in store for the Sunday show as well too. And again, we will be talking a lot more about that. These are just some initial teases of what we got coming on, more announcements again too as we move on into the next few weeks leading up to March 9th, that weekend, March 9th and 10th. So that's what I'm saying. March 9th and 10th will be our next official shows. So we will be a weekend garden show, not just a Saturday garden show. We are going to be a weekend garden show. One of the reasons why we're going to be able to do this, hopefully it's going to continue and work out. I've got a few good ideas and a few really awesome people going to be participating and helping me out with this. But we have benefited from the fact of having so many really awesome and great guests this last year. There are hundreds of other people that really could be featured on our show, and we're going to be trying to feature as many of them as we possibly can. But we have also, like I said, had a bunch of really awesome people already on the show. So I am opening up a Sunday kind of version of the show. It's going to vary from week to week at times, but it's going to be giving us an opportunity also to have some guests back with us again and be able to feature more guests on the Saturday show. And one more, I'm giving away everything today, but one more thing too is we will be bringing back the Are You Following Me segment. That is going to be a combination of what we were doing when we originally launched the show with the Are You Following Me and the Channel of the Week segments. We had those two segments to start up the show at the front of the show. We're going to combine those into the Are You Following Me segment. So it could be small YouTube channels, Instagram gardeners, TikTokers, just all sorts of different ways of having and different guests on that segment to kind of feature what they're doing and give us a chance to meet more people with a nice cool short segment at the front of the show. And then again, we will have our featured guest each week as well too, for a nice long conversation to dig into their garden stories and all the different things that they have to talk about. There again are so many really awesome people, and we've been reaching out to some really great people and been booking some awesome people for this upcoming year. So I'm really, really excited about it. And again, too, so March 9th, Saturday, 11 a.m. And then again on Sunday, March 10th at 11 a.m. for our Sunday edition. We will be back on with the Let's Get Growing weekend, our garden weekend. So hopefully a lot of you will be able to attend both shows, but maybe some will be able to do Sundays and watch the replay of Saturday. It's just going to hopefully open us up to, even more people who might have even more of an opportunity to watch us and see what we've got growing on here on our show. And again, that is kind of one of our big goals this year. Like one of the big number one goals is for us to to grow our audience. So again, too, I do want to emphasize, I've got all of you here who show up with me most every week, you know, and all of you who watch our replays, if you're watching those as well, who watch us really regularly, and it's really you guys that I'm really hoping to help out and to share and to get the word out about our show. One of the really great ways is if you're on Facebook or Instagram and those places where I'll be sharing graphics and things like that for our upcoming shows and our upcoming guests. If you could share those things, come and like and comment on that sort of stuff. So it really is a great idea to come and join with us on Facebook. We do have the Let's Get Growing Facebook group, and it's a really great group. We've got some awesome people joining with us in that community. Some great gardeners have been there for a couple of years now, sharing all sorts of really great things, and a great opportunity for you to be able to share your gardens and all of that, plus be able to kind of share things with the show and all of that sort of stuff as well too, as we'll be highlighting and showing our upcoming guests and different things that we have as far as the content that we're going to be doing. And I'll be talking about a little bit more again in the coming weeks when it comes to all of that. So I kind of thought I'd talk about all of that really at the top of this show there. So yeah, again, thank you all so much for being here with me today. I want to jump in the comments here. I know we've already had our good friend Jay, who's joining with us here, moderating our show and dropping in links and all of that sort of stuff for us in the comment section there. So again, thanks for Jay there. Excellent. So yeah, again too, and Rob's allotment. Again, great to see you, Rob, this week. Awesome. And everybody else, I do see we got some other people here watching. So jump into that comment section there in the chat box. Let me know you're here. Say hi. Ask a question. Leave a comment. Let me know what you've got growing on in your garden this week. What do you got happening? What's we've got a lot of things growing on in our gardens right now. I did just release our second week in a row. We released another one of our garden journals. So again, too, that's a good thing you want to check out on our YouTube homepage. And go, or if subscribe as well too, check out your subscriptions each week. I'm going to try to be as regular as possible at getting these out and just kind of film whatever I have to in order to get them out as well too. But our weekly garden journals, that way you can follow along, and it's a video journal of everything that we've got growing on throughout the year in our gardens. And plus, again, too, you can find other videos where we're putting out how-to videos on, we put out some seed starting mix. I've got some other ones there too. We're doing our worm bins. We're gonna have a checkup on our worm bins coming up here real soon. So all sorts of great things growing on in our video section of the channel. So go ahead and go check all of that out too as well. And give us some likes over there and jump into the comments over there too, because that's one of the big things that really helps us out. Is getting the views. Watch our videos. Be sure to interact by hitting the like buttons and commenting and all of that. It really does help out. It really does, and I appreciate everything that you guys do in participating with what we put out there here on the channel. And again, like I said, got a lot of things growing on. Oh, and let's see here. Cheers, mate, from Rob there. Also, cheers, Rob. And it looks like we got Brampton Gardner joining with us. Awesome. Good to see you here. Thanks for jumping in and joining with us. Had a really great conversation with Brampton Gardner on her channel there. Rochelle, and it was a really kind of fun conversation. I was just kind of hanging out this week. I was actually supposed to be doing some other things, which really was a great kind of distraction for me. I got on YouTube real quick and noticed that she was on live with a few other people. Danny from Wicked Awesome Gardening, who's a previous guest of our show. Wickershire Farm, and Nicole Smith Gardening. So I got to hang out with all of them and talk all sorts of different things. We talked movies and things like that as well too. It was a really fun conversation. And in fact, you can probably find that conversation on her channel there as a replay of her live just recently. So that was a lot of fun. So great to see you here with us on our little show here we've got going on this weekend. Again, to just a nice, easy conversation today. Just talking about what we got growing on in our gardens, and I've got one little thing we'll talk about here again too in just a little bit. And I've just been kind of going over how we're going to get our actual Let's Get Growing show with all of our featured guests and all of that started up here real soon on March 9th. So that's just a few weeks away. I still got a lot more things to get done, and I got to stop falling for all these distractions and actually get a lot of this stuff done, because this show is going to be happening real soon now in just a few weeks. Nate Murray from Garden Like a Viking is going to be joining with us as our first featured guest of the year, and really great to have him join with us. He was such an awesome guest. Had such a lively discussion that day, as he has a live stream that he does on his channel just before we get started with ours. So he ends his show maybe about 20 minutes or so before I get this one started. And so I listen to kind of his show on YouTube while I'm kind of preparing for everything that I'm doing on the show. And so it's kind of fun to kind of have him on the show, and he brought a lot of those viewers who are watching his show like just before he came on right on to our show as well too. So we had a lot of people. It was a really lively discussion that day, but we had some technical difficulties with the audio, and so hopefully we're going to get all of that figured out, have him back on the show, hopefully have a really great discussion again with him. It was the most viewed and I guess you'd say the most popular show of our last year. So it's gonna be really awesome to be able to start back up with Nate as well too. And also, again, we are going to be starting and launching our Sunday edition show, same time, same channel, just on Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because we've got a lot more to offer, a lot of really cool things. And again, too, I just want to start saying and talking about everything, but some things are still being worked out a little bit, but most everything's kind of set up. So again, too, it just becomes can we keep that train rolling once we get it started? So so I'm hoping that everything really goes well. But we've been having so much fun with this show. I've been enjoying it so much, so there's no reason. I've got the time to spend on Sunday mornings as well doing this. I could do this almost every day, but I do have everything. I got gardens, I got things I got to do besides. But no, I can do Sundays though as well too. We can make a nice, fun weekend Saturday, Sunday weekend gardening situation right here on our channel, and have some fun with some really cool guests, and really have just more opportunities for everybody to participate. All of you be able to really get to interact with all of our guests. Again, like I said, ask questions, do all that sort of stuff, and hopefully we'll have some really great shows for you coming up. And let's see here. Oh, I gotta keep up here. Make sure I'm keeping up. Brampton Gardner was saying about our conversation. Yeah, it was fun. It went all over the place. Yeah, yeah. Those conversations are always the best, though. That was really fun. Again, really, really fun. Glad to have uh, met Wickershire and Nicole Smith's gardening channel. Um, and again, too, it's one of the fun things about these live streams is for us to get to meet new people and to meet new gardeners and be able to expand our community. And really, really great to have for you to have me along for your channel and your live stream and to be a part of what you've got going with your community as well. Let's see here. Adam joining with us. Hey, Adam, great to see you here. He says, hi, all. Listening this morning. I'm swamped with soil analysis this weekend. Yes. Test that soil. Good, good, good idea. All right, all right. Yeah. Oh, Brampton Gardner says it's so hard to schedule people. It's a lot of work. I want to tell you, there's a reason why, and I want to, and again too, uh, not to like, I don't know. Again, I don't want to like brag or anything, but I should maybe in some sort of sense. We get great guests. We get some of the top gardeners in the gardening community, people to come join our show. And a lot of the reasons for that is because of doing that work. It takes behind the scenes to be able to line people up, to be able to get them onto the show. This is a live show. That's probably one of the most hardest things. I could probably even get more content, more people, more interviews if I did like a pre-recorded interview show, like a lot of people do with just the regular podcasts and stuff. I go on a lot of different podcasts this last year. In fact, I just did one the other day. Um, um, and it was, I get to do those sort of things. We record it and then it comes out whenever they want to because they can edit it, get it all set up. But this is a live show, and it makes it even harder to get some of the guests that we get on here because you've got to line them up. For one, you got to get a hold of them. Here's the biggest things. And in fact, I'm still, I've got people that I've even, made first contact with that I'm still in contact and still working weeks and weeks later just to try to work on a possible date in the future type things. And you've got to I've got to work that stuff almost every day throughout the week in order to get some of the great guests that we have on the show. Some of them, I mean, I kind of got ahead of myself actually here a few weeks back as we started the show for this year and started talking about a guest that I was planning and we were working on. And the first initial contact of discussion with this person was to have them on for the very first show of the year to launch our show with this really awesome guest. In fact, I already talked about him, so no reason to hide it, but it's Mark Valencia of Self-Sufficient Me. And that was kind of how we first initially kind of opened it up. But as he looked at his schedule and we started, talking more through more emails, it just didn't look like we were going to be able to line it up with his calendar. And so it then became discussions of, well, when can we? And you know what I mean? So this, and we're talking about some busy people with busy email boxes and trying to get your emails to be seen and things like that. So yes, it could definitely be some work, and really difficult. And in order to put together and to really do some of the work it takes to put together one of these shows. And again, I'm also a one-man crew here. I do all of that booking, behind the scenes stuff, all the technical stuff, putting together and editing, the videos and the different segments and all of these different things that have to be put together in order to have kind of a fun show, you know. And again, too, more like what we originally did when we first launched the show last spring. Those first 10 shows we did, that, you know, those were what the original vision kind of was to get us going. We're kind of trying to get back to where we were when we were doing that, having this fun show with multiple guests and different segments and doing some fun things and stuff. And in order to do that takes a real balancing act of a lot of different sorts in order to make it work. And again, too, you know, it's it's fun, it's challenging, you know, and at the same time, you know, you know, we get to end up having this really great, awesome show. And one of the coolest things about all of that in the long run this last year, with, you know, in the challenge of doing that our first year too, even was to have all these just amazing conversations with some really amazing people. And really, again, too, I wish more people could see what we've got going on over here in on our channel and in the show. And but again, that's going to be one of our big goals this year. Hopefully we'll be able to work on more promotional opportunities to be able to get out there. I'm trying to, you know, again, like I said the other day, I was on another podcast and trying to, you know, just do as much of those sort of things, and get the word out about what we've got going on here. This is a really great show, and like I said, there's a lot of people out there who love gardening and gardening content. We just got to get their eyeballs pointed in this direction, and in a world of content and YouTube where there's just hundreds and thousands of different people out there doing just gardening content, just that alone, let alone all of the content that's available out there for people to watch. So, you know, we've just got to, you know, hopefully just keep moving forward, keep having those great conversations, and eventually, hopefully, the word will get out and we'll start to, you know, seeing the types of numbers that will be really great and really kind of do for the, like I said, for the types of guests and conversations that we're been really just so lucky to have here. Jay says, new schedule for live streams will be an excuse to break from garden in the heat of the day. Yeah, yeah. And again, too, that's right. You know, and sometimes I don't think about that enough, is that a lot of other folks, you know, are seeing and watching the show in totally different time zones. Like Rob right now is, you know, it's late in the evening for him, midday, I think, for you guys there over there up in Canada where you're at, Jay. And and just basically just the afternoon going into the actually noontime for us. So, you know, all different times of day there. So, yeah, it would be a great time for that midday for everybody to take a break from what they got going on and come join with us, not just here on Saturdays, but on Sundays as well, coming up for our show. So, anyways, like I said, let's see here. I think have I gone through? Yeah, yeah, making sure. Oh, Brampton Gardner says, listening, but Dexter is on my arm. So hard to type. Yeah, yeah. Again, too, I love it. I love the fact you got a little dog named Dexter, and I've got a little cat named Dexter too. In fact, I shared with on your live stream. In fact, and it reminded me when I saw him when I was filming the other day for our weekly garden journal. So Dexter, my cat is on the garden journal, and it made me think about that conversation that we had just had on your live stream. So I shared with everybody how and this is like later on, you got to watch the extras after the show is over on that video, but I share with everybody how Dexter, my cat, had moved in with my neighbor. He chose to do this. You know, a lot the cats get to do pretty much as they wish. Cats do as they wish, you know what I mean? And I just kind of you know what I mean? I just live with that and allow it, that sort of thing. And Dexter, he's a little white, all white, pure white cat. And used to wander over to my neighbor's. She lives a few houses down. Off of the alleyway is her backyard, so he'd wander into her backyard, and she has a cat door for her cat that she has over there. And Dexter, when he was a kitten, would wander over there, go into her house, and she would come home from work, and Dexter would be like up on her counter, just sitting there with his tail wagging and, you know, purring and just hanging out with the other cat, her other cat, in the house and everything. So she just again too, the same sort of thing, you know, cats do what they want to do. So, you know, she just kind of allowed for that, and let me know about it, you know, years ago. And so I kind of knew that's what he was kind of doing. But over the last year or so, he's literally been staying over there. I mean, he moved over there. It's like he, you know, if cats had things to pack up and all of that, if he had a room and could have put things up in boxes and all that, you know, he'd probably have done that already and hauled himself down the alleyway into my neighbor's place. And again, too, she's a really nice lady. She adores him and all that sort of stuff. I'm not too worried about it. I get to see him as he comes by, which has been, you know, fewer and further between, you know, over the recent history. But you know, ultimately it's not that big of a deal for me that he does that. And again too, she takes really good care of him. In fact, she gives him like, she bathes him, and I'm surprised he must love it. Or maybe that's why he really likes it, is like she just pampers him over there. And again too, I'm just a dude over here just letting him be a cat. And he gets the whole spa treatment over there, you know, at her place. So I guess it's kind of obvious what that he's actually chosen that. But I think it's just really hilarious, you know. And every now and then he wanders on down the alleyway, comes in here and, you know, eats out of the cat dish and comes and hangs out with George. You know, him and George, he's grown up with George all his life, so they're real good buddies and all of that too. So they got to kind of hang out a little bit together too. So just so much, so funny. And she says Dexter's ears perked up when he heard his name. That's right, Dexter. I got a Dexter too. Yeah, yeah. Rob, I was talking about the time there. Rob's allotment says just coming up on 8 p.m. here. Yeah, yeah. Again, too, later in the evening there. Really awesome, though, too. You know, and that's one of the things too, is that I really did think about, and I've still kind of contemplated the idea about schedule and time and when to have the show. We thought really long and hard about what to do when it came to that. And ultimately, you know, we settled on the time we did because, you know, through the analytics and the different things we were looking at, it really showed that these were probably more of the prime time that our content was being viewed. I mean, you can see all this. I mean, they got all sorts of crazy analytics you can look at for your channel and see how it's performing in all these different areas. And one of them that they show you is literally when you get the most traffic, when you're getting the most views from people. And there were a couple of different time periods, and most of them were this weekend time period. And so we thought a lot about that. And again, too, to be at the time we are really does kind of open it up and allow us to be kind of viewed across the board. I mean, all the way to where, you know, it's just the evening time for Rob in the UK there, you know, so he's watching in the evening time. It's early, you know, late morning for us when we're getting started here on the Pacific coast, and all times in between. In fact, one of the cool things too, because I was mentioning having Mark Valencia on from Self Sufficient Me, when in fact, as part of at least the conversations we've had so far, is that um, I was mentioning to him the time that our show gets started, and it's even for the early birds over in Australia can watch our show, but it's really early, and also the very next day too. So for him, I believe we would have our show, or he would come on the show, I think is what we're talking about, at about 11:45 Pacific Standard Time, and that will be 5:45 a.m. uh, Sunday time for Mark over in Australia. So that's really interesting. So even for the early birds in Australia, though, too, you know, you could come and participate and be here live. And for him, he's like, I am an early bird. That is not a problem for me. So hopefully, we're still going to be able to make that work out and have that happen. Actually, coming up in June. June is what we're tentatively looking at for that interview. I'm really excited about that one too. That's gonna be a really great conversation, and something we will definitely ramp up to and let everybody know about well ahead of time, because that will hopefully, like I said, be a live conversation, and you all can come and join and ask Mark questions. This is such a great opportunity to be able to ask someone like Mark Valencia, who, you know, his channel, I mean, if you're going to be lucky to be able to get a response to a comment, because he's got millions of subscribers. He's, you know, he put, you know, if he put himself on one of his own live streams on his channel like he used to do, you know, thousands of people show up within minutes, you know. So this being a nice little smaller corner of the internet gardening world, we should have a nice kind of interesting conversation for folks, and again too, hopefully similar to like having Nate on and that sort of thing. We'll get plenty of people who will follow over here to kind of watch that conversation, and actually, like I said, be a part of it live, because he'll be here and people will be able to ask questions of Mark during that conversation. So yeah, that's gonna be really, really awesome. Jay put up there, yeah, Australia is approximately 17 hours into the next day. And yeah, and that again too just really depends on where we are and where, you know, in the world, and also where in Australia as well. I believe there's a few different time zones across Australia as well too. So, you know, and kind of depending where we're at there, but yeah, approximately 17 hours, and that's ahead, you know, so they're going into the next day there, you know, which is really interesting. Really interesting, that whole date line, the way that works. Oh, good call. Jay was putting that. I just saw that. That's great. Time change. Spring ahead. An hour occurs that same weekend of the relaunch. Make sure we are on board for correct time. Yes. Or just make sure everybody's got their clocks and stuff. So that's great. I'm so glad that you actually mentioned that. I'm sure we would have figured it out, but good to know well ahead of time now too. 'Cause that way we can make sure that we're putting out the notifications and the warnings and all that sort of stuff. So let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, we got with us Adam Nash. We got another Adam here. You know, well, that's really funny though too. That's actually really funny because when I was talking about Adam, who I got to meet, Adam, who was in the conversation just a little bit earlier, and I'll get to this in a second. But um, when I was mentioning meeting him, and he was in the conversation. I was saying like Adam, and I was like, if that's the same Adam, and I was like, well, I guess it should be. I just mentioned him, and I was thinking like, you know, how many different Adams we have, and then here we have another Adam joining in with the conversation. So awesome to have you here with us today, Adam Nash from the U.S. When we're talking about mycorrhizae, does only having endo or ecto okay, or does a more diverse blend is better? Then what type of endo or ecto is better than others of the same type? Oh boy, oh boy. Now you're really digging into I'm just gonna, you know what, I'm just gonna go with the ideas. I think more diverse blend would probably be great, but I am not too sure on any of the science, endo or ecto, or all of that sort of stuff. When it comes to a lot of that sort of stuff. And I'm sure that there's going to be some other folks who would have a better type of knowledge of that too. Um, in fact, our our other Adam, might have a answer for you on that question actually too. And our other Adam does some soil science and all of that. And then awesome. And then Jay did put a good link. See, look at him. He's right on there too. So endo, ecto, other, oh my. That's funny. So he's got a link right there in the comments too that might help us with some good answers to that question. Um, just a little more deep for me, but you know, I as far as mycorrhiza, I would, if I was just, you know, shopping around and I saw something that said, you know, it's a diverse blend of mycorrhiza, that sort of thing, versus that sort of thing, I probably would go for a diverse blend of it if I was trying to get something for my own gardens, and that would just be my initial reaction. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking there. But again, that's a link that Jay shared might actually have some really great information there for you on that. And then if anybody knows or has a good answer to that question, go ahead and drop that into the comments. Or even too, if you're here with the replay, I love to learn more about these sort of things from other gardeners and their experiences. And if you're watching on the replay, also jump in the comment section down below and let me know what you think there. Right on, right on. So as I was mentioning too, we did or I said we, but me and the cats here, we put together a video, another garden journal for you all that I released yesterday. And I just you know, I went out, just kind of highlighting that I went out, and we're kind of getting started outdoors. I was talking a little bit about this last week. It's time to really start really working on all these outdoor projects, start getting things put together, starting to, you know, get the outdoor chore list and project list, and prioritizing things, and getting things done. So I was kind of out walking around, checking things out, and also planting out and sowing some peas. We put some peas out in the alleyway in on one of our cattle panel. We have two different beds, so we planted out two different varieties. We've got these cattle panel fencing type trellises, and it's going to be really awesome when here in just hopefully the next month or so, in the nice you know, as spring is just getting started here, we'll hopefully have lots and lots of delicious peas to be harvesting. I've got lettuce varieties. We've got some that are just popping up and volunteering. I've got some spinach that's popping up out there, some bunching onions that went to seed, and some seed fell. So I've got some fresh bunching onion that's popping up in some places. The herb garden's starting to come alive out there. Several different things I'm going to be working on, hopefully starting up soil blocks too. I want to get some soil blocks going in the next couple of weeks so we can start up those brassicas and get all of that stuff going. And just lots and lots of things to be thinking about when it comes to moving all of our gardening projects from the ones that we've been doing indoors now for several weeks during the winter to all the things that we've got to do outdoors now. And but again too, just starts getting that my mind flowing. It gets me thinking about all of these awesome, really cool things that are about to start happening in all of our gardening spaces. One of the things too is I've got to work on getting a few different things confirmed, but we've talked about and been teasing some of these additions and things that we're going to be able to do, like getting back up onto the carport and hopefully getting our pepper garden back up onto the carport hopefully this year. I'm still working on some details to get that back in place so that there's going to be some fun things happening here, and just getting out early in the season and walking around and planning and thinking about all the things that we got to do really just starts to get that excitement for all of those sort of things that we've got coming up and how fun the gardening and growing season's going to be. I just love it. Just can't wait. Let's see here. Oh, look at that, Adam. I knew Adam would have something to say. Diversity is best. Endo and ecto react differently for the host plant. Some benefit plants better than others, vice versa. So just the diversity ones, so that they have whatever they're looking for. That really, really kind of makes sense. Like I said, that's it. Just my initial response is what I would think. Ultimately, if I was seeing something on a shelf and and had to just kind of go with something, I would think diversity as well for and for that very reason. You're just trying to give whatever is present what it needs and help the varying different plants and their varying different needs. All right. All right. Excellent. Yes. But really awesome. Yeah. And as far as what we got growing on here too, just lots and lots of fun things. And lots more growing on too. And okay, so I am gonna dig into this issue and kind of and just definitely jump into the chat if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. And something we touched on just last week, lots of big news going on in the gardening world, lots of different subjects happening throughout this last year, like I was mentioning before in different live streams as we got started with the new year. So lots and lots of things going on, lots and lots of stuff for us that we're going to have fun with in on our show as we get everything relaunched. I will just make one more real quick reminder before I get started here about our show. Again, relaunching March 9th, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for our first Saturday show, and then we're launching a whole new show on Sunday. It's going to be Sunday at the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the same channel. It's just going to be a Sunday edition of our show. It's going to run a little bit different. It's going to have a little bit of different format. We're going to have some different things going on there. I'll talk a little bit more about that in coming weeks, but it's going to be March 9th and 10th. We'll get our show relaunched, but I will still be here again each Saturday morning for this fun conversation that we get to have here and talk with all of you as we get prepared and working towards that launch. And again, like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about some of those details and different things as we get closer to that date here in the next few weeks. And really, really excited about that. Really excited about that. So come and join with us. Mark it on your calendar. Our first guest, Nate Murray from Garden Like a Viking channel. And again, too, just going to be really, really great. And I'll have more announcements about that opening launch weekend to this next week. So be sure to be here next week as well, too, next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So again, jump into the comment section, ask any questions. I'm going to try to keep an eye on here too, but I gonna try to just kind of maybe go on a little discussion here for just a few minutes about something and kind of talk about some stuff. Wanted to wait a little bit further into the show to kind of talk about all of this. and but anyways, yeah, lots and like I said, lots of big news going on in the gardening world. This last year, we had the new USDA hardiness zone map. We've had some world records broken, from the largest ever squash and the hottest pepper, fun things like that. But one of the big things that happened basically this last week or so in the gardening world was the announcement of the Norfolk purple tomato. Oh my, oh my. It's a GMO tomato that has been released to the general gardening public. Yes, a GMO tomato. And again, too, as I've been watching videos of all sorts of different YouTubers and gardeners, people, I really respect and listen to a lot of content, a lot of different people out there with varying different viewpoints and thoughts on this. But one of the most common things that all of people who share content in the gardening world, who whether they're on Instagram or YouTube or other places as well too, one of the things that's really common of folks is that we have for years always kind of tried to push back on the idea that you could purchase GMO seeds. One of the things, and when I was early on learning about this, I used to actually think, like, why do all of these seed catalogs put GMO verified, have these sort of like things that they put all over and have these different stamps of approval on their packaging that they have for the stuff if GMO seeds were not available to the general public. So I used to think a lot about that. But then I started to realize after a while through listening to some other opinions and discussions that really a lot of that reasoning is because of the general public. It isn't the company themselves. I'm sure the company would like to not have to worry about those sort of things themselves, but it's the general public. It's the purchasing public who don't know and understand a lot about GMOs. There's a lot of fear around GMOs. There's a lot of truth around GMOs as well too. But there's a lot out there. So people, don't know and understand a lot about that. They hear genetically modified, and so it creates a lot of assumptions that are made at that point. And so seed companies would put these verifications on their seed packets in order to just assure the purchasing public that things are going to be all right, even though they knew that they couldn't sell genetically modified organisms, genetically modified seeds to the general public. That just was not anything possible. And again, too, this is one of the most common things as I'm watching all these videos of all of these different gardeners and YouTubers who are putting videos out with their take on this new genetically modified purple tomato. And that is now one of the things that all of us have to kind of recognize and deal with. I think it's probably one of the bigger things about this story, is that now that it's out there, it's out there. We can't, as all I was watching a video with from Jess from Roots and Refuge. Brian over at Next Level Gardening has a really great video on this too. In fact, if I think about it, or maybe even Jay might put some links for us in the chat there, of Jess's from Roots and Refuge's recent video that she did talking about the genetically modified tomato. And Brian over at Next Level Gardening had a really interesting take as well too. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well too, as we kind of get into my take when it comes to the genetically modified purple tomato and some of the different things that are going on about this. One of the things I'm just going to say right up front, so there's no mystery when it comes down to it. I don't, and had been very critical of the idea of genetically modified plants and organisms based on certain things that I know and understand of a lot of the already available commercial genetically modified organisms. Now, with that said, I would grow the purple tomato. Absolutely would. I would love to check it out. I'm a plant lover. I'm a grower when it comes down to it. I would love to grow this out. I would love to see what it looks like, and I would even eat it. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit, but I want to just kind of be upfront about that before we get into really this full discussion here. But yeah, so another thing I'll also mention as well too, and again, we've already kind of talked about this at the front of our show already, as we've talked about the new season of our show getting started. One of the guests that we are working on and planning and scheduling for one of our future shows is the lady who developed this purple tomato. At the Norfolk laboratory, I guess you would say, over in the UK, I believe. And she is going. In fact, we just got an email the other day, and I'm going to be working on setting up the actual date. And but she's going to be doing a little tour here in the States, so we might catch her while she's here in the States. And have a conversation with her all about the science and all of the details behind all of this sort of stuff, so we can really hear from the person who actually developed this tomato. I think it's worthwhile listening and getting to hear about how all of this is developed, what their take on the development of this tomato, what their intentions for the tomato are as it's being introduced to the wider world, the gardening public. So that, I think, is going to be a great conversation. So I really will be talking a lot more about that as that conversation starts to come up. So definitely, if you haven't subscribed to the channel or follow along, get notifications or anything like that, definitely do that. Follow along so that you can be here on the Let's Get Growing show as we have that plant scientist on our show to talk all about how they developed that purple tomato. We'll have some other takes and things like that as we move forward as well to talk about though too. But again, really, that is just one of the biggest things about it. I've always stood that ground. Hey, there's no reason to worry about genetically modified anything. A lot of people believe that most anything can be a genetically modified organism. There's so many people in the chats and the discussions and posts and comment sections that I attend at times on social media and listen to a lot of people and what they talk about when it comes to genetically modified organisms. And you can definitely see there's a lot of people who have some really, really firm black and white opinions about genetically modified organisms. And with everything out there, there's a ton of gray area. It's about how do we interpret that gray area, and that really makes for what should be really pushing our opinions forward on different things. And as we'll discuss here too, about the actual process and what genetically modified organisms are, and what would lead me to want to grow this tomato is hopefully you'll understand. First of all, the science and that I know and understand about genetically modified organisms, and unlike what a lot of people believe, as I've said, is that there are really only a handful of genetically modified crops that are grown by large scale commercial farmers who sign contracts and pay for seed, and they pay for seed on a yearly basis. They're not even allowed to save seed. So this is these are, and they're just a handful of crops: beets, soybeans, corn, just to name a couple there, but only just a couple of others that you're going to find in the U.S. market as far as a genetically modified crop. There are more that are working and coming onto the market for different things. And it's in these ones, in the research of these sort of ones, that gives me the refrain and where I pull back. Because to me, the science, I'm right along with most everybody out there when I look at the idea of what they do with putting together a genetically modified organism. It's not, as people like confuse as well too, with natural modifications, natural genetic modifications. There's an N before the GMO when we're talking about those things specifically, and we should start adding that in GMOs, natural genetic modifications. That happens in nature all the time. It's happening right now as we speak. There are modifications happening naturally in the plant world, the animal world, all over the place. This is just a part of our genetic existence. But to have things where you have two different organisms that they can't combine their DNA. It's unnatural for them to do so. They're just not natural. Not naturally able to cross with something. You know, and a lot of this that I've learned in the early science has been with these, and I can't really, and I was looking for something here just kind of briefly. I wished I could have found that, and maybe that we can find maybe some little bit more deeper information for people who want to look into it a little bit more. But corn, for instance, being crossed with another like bacteria. In fact, I think one of them is BT, Bacterium thuringiensis. I'm not sure the side, but BT is a naturally occurring and considered organic pesticide that you can use in most organic farms. A lot of organic people don't do that. Myself, I don't use most anything in my organic garden. I am almost a purist in my organic garden when I'm doing things. But BT really, is something that's naturally occurring in our soil. In fact, I'm sure Adam could confirm that as a soil scientist himself. But this is one of the things that they do. This is a bacteria. This is something, and they take it, utilizing it into another bacteria that they can insert into the the DNA of the corn in order to make it more pest resistant, to give it those genetic qualities of that bacteria that would naturally be a natural pesticide in nature, and utilizing that in the corn in order to make it more pest resistant. Now, even though those things are two different things, and this is where we're going to get some real nuance in here as well too. But even though those things are kind of would be considered organic. You have an organic corn seed, or organic BT bacteria that does its thing in nature. When you're taking these two things and crossing them and putting them together for this other purpose, in the science, it makes sense. There's places that could probably use higher corn production. I think there's probably way too much corn production in the world. We probably need tons less. I don't even know, but there's people who need food, I suppose, and this is the reasoning behind a lot of this stuff. This is a lot what Jess from Roots and Refuge gets into, and I agree with her a lot on this. Part of it, is this corporatized sense of doing things for these large scale productions, but in some senses, is it necessary for certain places that are starving for food? I don't know. I truly believe there's more food than available to us than what we're actually utilizing. I think some of the more scarier statistics that you can find out there are the food waste that actually happens. And when you think of people who are needing food, I immediately go to food waste more than I think about the idea of upping production of corn through genetically modified organisms. Okay. Other ones, though, too, where it gets even worse. Where it gets even worse is there are modifications that make these crops resistance to actual pesticides, so that not the corn plant resisting pests itself, but actually having corn or soy or beets or any of these other crops resistant to glyphosates. This is disgusting. I mean, because here's the point here. Now, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want, and I want to stay as far away from having any of that in my food as possible, for sure. I mean, because here's the idea behind that. It's not necessarily the food. If you can get it completely clean without any pesticides applied to it all, the questions behind whether or not that's actually okay to eat. The science hasn't bared out enough time for us to know completely. But the worst end of that whole issue is that these crops are being sprayed down with glyphosates. You know, all this food is poisoned with these nasty, disgusting, gross chemicals, cancer causing. We are known to be there's enough science out about glyphosates and these chemicals for us to know and understand that they are dangerous. They are completely and totally dangerous. So to create genetically modified crops that are resistant to glyphosate and pesticide application, because that just means all the food has been poisoned. More so than the actual modification itself, and worrying about that. So when it comes to all of that sort of stuff, it, I get completely why people are resistant and have a negative viewpoint of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and I get that. In fact, it makes a lot of sense why a lot of people will take just basic information about those sort of things, and then kind of and apply it to everything else, because they just don't want it. They just don't want it at all. They don't want to take a risk of it anywhere. And so, going back to those seed packets, even though it wasn't available to home gardeners, it it was still needed to be on the package in order to assure people that they're not running the risk of those sort of things when you hear about that. Another big thing, though, too. I think one of the things I found is a very negative thing about genetically modified organisms and these large commercial companies and farms that do this is the stories that I was hearing about early on about corn. Now, again, to the one caveat to all of the available seed, when we would say that there are no genetically modified seed available to home gardeners out there prior to this new tomato. Was always came with kind of that caveat, I think, with corn. And then made that kind of symbol, it was genetically modified, because corn was always the risk, really, because it just it pollinates and crosses so easily, and as it pollinates through the wind in large groupings, and you can imagine massive acreage of these large scale genetically modified corn crops. When those pollen tassels start popping out and that pollen starts coming out in probably clouds that you would probably see flowing all over the place if you were able to really observe this. I'm sure it can even be observed. But imagine those pollen clouds moving over to some small market gardener, some small scale, small family farm who has some heirloom corn that they've been growing for generations, and this massive cloud, just because of the wind direction that day, pushes those pollen into your farm, and then you don't think anything of it. In fact, you don't think anything of it at all. You're not even really sure or know it really actually happened. You save your seed, you go and you plant out next year. But these companies send out folks who'll go around knowing that this situation can happen, and they'll find ways to get a hold of your corn and find ways to test it to find and see whether or not the gene of their trademarked organism that they own is in your family farm or your small market garden, and force you then to remove all of your crop and to get rid of all of your seed and basically start from scratch. And people were being sued by these companies like Monsanto and others who are developing these genetically modified organisms, and losing crops. And when you hear about those stories, it doesn't make me happy about genetically modified organisms at all. It gives me a negative viewpoint. I can totally get why people, have a real resistance to genetically modified organisms. But yeah, I mean, when you think about that sort of stuff, absolutely. But I'm going to come back to the point I made early on, is that when the opportunity to get a hold of some Norfolk purple tomato seeds comes available, and for me to grow them in my garden, I will. And I'm going to try them out. I'm going to check out and see how the plants grow, and all of that. Like I said, I'm a grower. I have a passion for gardening. I do grow a ton of my own food, and I love growing my own food and supplementing the food that I have available to me through my own garden space, and grown through my own hands, and the seeds that I save and collect or purchase from reputable seed sources, and all of that. So, but I'm excited about the idea of being able to grow this new tomato. That's kind of my take on it, just as an initial take. I'm going to dig a little bit more into that. There is just a little bit more news when it comes down to it. Is that Actually, you know what? Real quick before I mention that, I did also, and I do believe Jay did put links in our discussion. I'm going to try to make sure, as I think I'm going to put this out as a separate video, maybe, but I will be sure to maybe put some links down below in the comments for everybody down below for some of those videos I'm talking about. Jess's video take that she has on the purple tomato over at Roots and Refuge. I'll put a link down below to that. I'll put a link down below to Brian's take on it over at Next Level Gardening. And then as well to maybe some links to the NPR article which initiated all of this release, and as well as some other things that we'll talk about as well. Again, too, Brian over at Next Level Gardening had a really great take, I think, about just the idea that now that this tomato is out, what does that mean for the future? And Jess kind of touched on that a little bit too. And I think that's kind of where the more interesting aspect of all of this goes, and where now, in kind of talking about what we were talking about with the seed packets and these verifications and things like that, it's going to be more, we're going to have to be more aware. And that's what it's going to have to be, is we're going to have to be more aware of what it is, what are these modifications, and that sort of stuff, as we'll talk about this purple tomato just a little bit more. What are they? What do they mean? What's the purpose behind it too? Because I think these are going to be some great questions we'll have with the creator of this tomato seed variety, and talk about, you know, kind of what are these intentions, what are these sort of things as it's meant to go out to the public. This tomato, although they're offering it right now as an initial offering to the public at $20 for 10 seeds, I'm sure they're trying to look maybe as this initial public offering to maybe get some money back in their research and development and that sort of stuff. We'll ask about that sort of stuff, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. But once it's out there, it's out there. Once these seeds get going, a big question I want to know right off the bat, are they already pretty much open pollinated, or are these going to be more like a hybrid offering of tomato seeds where you have to buy tomato seeds new each year? See, these are going to be the big questions that I think they're really going to formulate probably a more solid opinion on this new tomato variety. But once this gets out there, it's going to be out there. And that kind of brings us to the next part of this story. Okay, the next part of the story. Now, I have shown this, one of the things you'll hear on my channel all the time. In fact, it's been a part of the history of my channel, as I've talked about it and explained to it before. When I first started my channel, one of my biggest goals of the year for my first year of making videos was to first be consistent. But if I was able to do that, I was going to reward myself with a trip down to California to go to the National Heirloom Exposition and to get to see all of these awesome things that I'd been following along with on different videos by like John Kohler and other YouTubers in the gardening world. So I wanted to go do that, and I was already just a huge fan of Baker Creek, their whole seed catalog, all of their seeds I'd been growing already for years. And so ultimately, I'm a huge fan of Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. And I'll show you this. This was this year's, I'll try to get off the light here a little bit, but this was this year's Baker Creek's free seed catalog. This isn't the whole seed catalog. The whole seed catalog is a much bigger, I don't have it with me right here at the moment, but it's a much bigger catalog, more in depth, more content, that sort of thing. But look at that deep purple looking tomato. And this was the first thing I thought about when the Norfolk tomato came out and they made that announcement. And I was reading that article, that NPR article about it, was the Baker Creek cover and this delicious purple tomato that I saw as an heirloom. And I was just excited. I was like, look at that color. I was so excited about the possibility of being able to grow out this tomato. I mean, you see anything of like that, it's just fascinating. And if you're a passionate gardener like myself, this is just intriguing. And just, I want to, you know, grow this thing as soon as I saw it. And yeah, so and I should have got in right away and started ordering seeds. I know some people out there already got some seeds because Baker Creek this last week just announced that they are discontinuing the what is this? This is the Purple Galaxy, is what they called it. The Purple Galaxy tomato, the truly purple tomato, they called it. And they sourced this seed from a seed source out of, I believe, the UK. You know, and as we get talking about this, will make more sense. But yeah, they put out a big, lengthy press release, and I'll just show you here. Baker Creek discontinues the Purple Galaxy tomato. Baker Creek regrets to inform you that we will not sell seeds of the Purple Galaxy tomato, which we previewed in our 2024 catalogs. After repeated testing, we are unable to conclusively establish that the Purple Galaxy does not contain any genes that have been genetically modified. Baker Creek remains steadfast in its commitment to selling only heirloom and open pollinated, non genetically modified varieties. So, you know, and it goes on to talk about all sorts of things. They actually kind of get into some of the science and some of these things, as we've already kind of talked about. One of the interesting things that kind of came out about this, and it makes me, you know, kind of a little more interested. We kind of talked and touched on this a little bit in the pepper world, as some of these new hot varieties were about to come out on the market through this show. Ed Curry put out the new Pepper X and broke the Pepper X record, and it was kind of like that they were releasing things to release because others had released something, and I think they had to get that purple, and this is just my opinion first, as just from a first reading of this situation, is that they had to get that purple tomato, the Norfolk tomato, out in order to push back and also do what they wanted to do as far as making it available to the public, to what was being put out through Baker Creek in Norfolk. From what I understand, the Norfolk laboratories sent notice to Baker Creek that they believe that this tomato could contain genes from its purple tomato that it has its patent on. And see, and this becomes one of those issues. So therefore, you know, and I'm more interested when we get into this conversation with the developer of the seed in this tomato variety about what, you know, because, you know, what it is when it comes to how this seed is going to be available to the public as we move forward into the future, because this is going to be the case. There are going to be people who are going to cross these, and they're going to make newer varieties. They're going to come up with new names like Purple Galaxy, and these sort of things are going to be possible. Or is, if anybody, you know, starts putting these out, are there going to be these cease and desist types notices and these sort of things like that? So I'm kind of really interested where it goes like that, because from what we can tell here, that, you know, there isn't any sort of cease and desist. This was a notification by Norfolk to Baker Creek that they believe that there was a connection to their tomato variety that they hadn't released yet, mind you. And so they wanted to get testing on that. And for Baker Creek's purpose, they don't want to be selling a genetically modified tomato variety. They're a company that does heirloom tomatoes. And heirlooms are just basically open pollinated seed varieties with these really awesome stories. And Baker Creek does an amazing job at telling these stories about all of these different tomato varieties that they collect and they procure in order to sell to all of us who get the opportunity to buy from them all of these wonderful, awesome, delicious varieties. And again, too, when it comes to color and diversity of color in your garden, you're going to find no better place than Baker Creek than to find some of that sort of stuff. And mind you, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going on about Baker Creek here. I want you to know, Jared's been a guest on my show here, the Let's Get Growing show this last year. He's been a guest that I've interviewed on our heirloom videos that we've done at our different heirloom visits. Jer is a really awesome person that I've gotten to meet and know as a person. So I have a connection to the company in that sort of way. But Baker Creek does not pay me, does not pay us to sponsor anything. I just, this is just my opinion on this situation with this tomato. My reading of the science on genetically modified organisms, and again, my trust, I guess you would say, in the Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. I've grown tons and tons of varieties from their company, and will continue to do so, even though they had a situation here with this seed buyer. Baker Creek doesn't grow all of the varieties that they sell in their catalog. Most seed companies don't grow most of the seeds that they sell. They get these, they procure these from other seed growers and seed growers from around the world. Especially in Baker Creek's case, they're procuring varieties that we haven't seen here in the States, because they've got seed hunters out there looking for seeds in these different varieties in all different countries around the world, and are bringing us some of this sort of stuff. And in this situation, it's just interesting that these kind of things converged all at this same time, that that they would find this just beautiful purple colored tomato, and then weeks later here, or I guess it would be a few months later, because I'm sure they had to go through all the testing and confirm and be ready, and then the Norfolk company to release their purple tomato. But again, we're getting into that ownership and of that seed variety and that sort of thing. And so, there's things and interesting questions about that. And I still got some questions. But when it comes down to this actual variety of purple tomato, from the most I understand in its genetic modification, is that this are two different organisms. Is, I guess you would say, it's a GMO, genetically modified organism, two different organisms, but both in the plant world and both completely edible. You know what I mean? So it's just like, crossing a tomato with a pepper, or a cucumber with a pepper, or something like that. You know what I mean? To take maybe a trait from one of these different varieties and cross them. These are just two things that just in the natural world, you can put them together. You can put the pollen together as much as you want. Try to join the male and female flowers as much as you want. They're just not going to naturally modify. They're just not going to do that. You would actually have to get in there and do some gene splicing, and go in there and get a piece of that DNA, and through some bacteria, insert it into that, which then you can insert into the new parent plant, and then hopefully breed out in those new seeds a new variety of plant with those new traits from that other plant variety. So now when we get into some of that sort of stuff, I'm thinking, now this is starting to sound interesting to me. You know what I mean? This is starting to really sound interesting to me. I love to see what a cross between a cucumber and a pepper is, or a pumpkin and a tomato, or something. I don't know. Just let your imagination go when it comes to completely edible plants, and how much fun you could have if you could kind of put some things together and see what you could kind of come up with. And again too, there's questions that come around that sort of stuff too, and I ponder those. In my opinion, as it stands right now, is could very well change. It could very well change in the coming weeks as I continue to read more. There's going to be more we're going to get to know about this stuff. This is all pretty new. This stuff is just kind of happening. So there's going to be more about this that we're going to hear about. In my opinion, and my mind is completely open. to hearing what is said about it. I'm excited to talk with the developer of the purple tomato, the scientist who developed that in a lab other than a garden. So, I've got tons of questions when it comes to that. And a lot of that stuff kind of fascinates me, you know? And at the same time, so, I mean, there's the white where the black is, what we talked about just a little bit earlier. All of this really crazy stuff, pesticides, glyphosates, and commercial, large scale food industry type questions when it comes to some of that sort of stuff. But when you're getting down to just your home garden and growing ourselves, and we're in a purple tomato that gets its color from the purple color of an edible snapdragon. Now I'm kind of fascinated. Now I'm really kind of interested, as well as I said, those questions around, marketing and the situation with Baker Creek and stuff like that, as we'll dig a little bit deeper into as we move closer to that interview. And hopefully, I'll be able to get a take from a few other people that we'll be able to share with all of you guys and stuff. But I thought, Brian, again too, from Next Level Gardening, just really, it was the more interesting take to me, was just the idea that now that it's introduced, what does that mean? Are we going to now allow ourselves to get used to the idea that these are available to home gardeners, then more varieties start becoming available, and so then we're not then we could possibly allow one of these more questionable genetically modified type varieties, like we're talking about with those corn or soy, or these sort of what they're resistant to and why they're resistant to it, what organisms were they crossed with each other, and that sort of stuff. These sort of things, I think, are going to become really bigger details for us as we move forward as home gardeners. But right now, I still don't think that we need to be really raising the alarms quite yet about the dangers and all of this sort of stuff, or anything being really imminent or happening right away. I mean, I think there's a lot of questions still, a lot of things to be found out, a lot of things to learn, but at the same time, this stuff is going to happen anyways. This was all inevitable, really. The science, it was started way back in the 80s when it came to doing genetically modified DNA transfers, and it's only something that's going to continue to develop even more. It's just something that we're going to have to be aware of. We're going to have to start learning more about. Again, too, I'm not a huge scientist myself. I only have a home gardener's understanding from what I've read about things about this, and ultimately, when it comes down to it, like I said, I'm going to grow this thing. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to be aware of all of these other sort of negative factors, as I well am, of the things that make me resistant to ideas of genetically modified organisms in our food system, and then again too as we move forward more in our home gardens. So keep following along with us here on the Let's Get Growing show as we move forward and we get to talk with again the scientist who developed this tomato. We'll try to talk with some other people and have some more discussions about this as we move into some of the other content that we'll be talking about just a little bit more further down the road here as we get our new season started here. So some really exciting things coming up for us, but also more of an opportunity for us to dig into this issue of this purple tomato and genetically modified organisms and all that sort of stuff, because it's really going to be on us now to start learning a bit more about this stuff and start really taking in this information. Put fear aside a little bit, put away black and white ideas, learn and listen and read some of that gray area, and then come to some really good ideas about what you want to do moving forward when it comes down to it. And I don't fault anybody who's just completely resistant and doesn't want to deal with it. It just makes sense. I mean, there's enough of that sort of horrible stuff like we talked about for that to make complete sense. And I totally understand that if that's the take that you have, for sure. But I'm just one of those gardeners. I'm fascinated with stuff, science and soil science and plant science, and all this sort of stuff just really fascinates me. I love growing things. And I love growing things. As I've said many times, I grow stuff that I don't even eat just to share with friends so I can grow the plants themselves. You know, I love growing eggplants. I don't care for eggplants much, but the plants are awesome. Those eggplant leaves are cool. The colors, again, that deep purple color of some of those eggplants that you can get, or some of those really white ones, fascinating to me. I love growing them. I will be just as fascinated with growing this new tomato variety now that it's available to the home gardener, and knowing that it's two edible plants that make up this plant. Yeah, I'd be interested in tasting it and see what it tastes like. So again, thanks for listening to this rant here, and check out any of the links that I have down below in the description here for the video version of this rant, and check out some of those other takes on it from Jess at Roots and Refuge, Brian from Next Level Gardening, and also you can read the NPR article. You could go directly to Norfolk's website, check out their information that they have available, and even maybe go out there and find and purchase some of the seeds yourself. I mean, if you do and you want to share, send some my way. Let me know for sure. I'd love to get some. In fact, if you got some of these Purple Galaxy variety that you've already ordered from Baker Creek, send them my way too. Let me know for sure. I'd love to get a hold of some of those just to try them. But definitely not going to be able to get them from Baker Creek anymore, because they're not going to be offering those. All right. Rant over. Thank you so much for listening to me there. I just wanted to kind of get a lot of that out. And again, too, I'm going to try to move back here and get into these comment section here and try to catch up with everybody real quick here before we get going. See if there's any questions anybody has. Yes, I see here Jay putting in some great links for us. Awesome. Thank you. Monsanto sued small farmers to protect seed patents. Yeah. See, you know, those are the sort of things and interesting questions I have with this new tomato now that they've released it to the public. You know what I mean? These companies before never released the stuff to the public. These were under really lock and key contracts, you know, and you know, and they protected that stuff really well. This company is releasing this to the public. I find that really, really interesting. So again, too, I want to learn a little bit more what that means too for gardeners and all of us down the road. Who again, too, I find some interesting questions when it comes to future crosses. You know, there might be some future crosses. Okay, some good links there. Awesome. Oh, okay. Yep. Here we go. Jay put a link to, again, some terms and conditions. In fact, I'm going to read up a little bit more about that. Maybe we'll touch a little bit more on that stuff on our next show. And we'll definitely be talking about some of that stuff with the developer of the seed too, when we get her on the channel. Oh, Connie joined in with us there. Connie, good to see you. As I'm catching up with comments here, sorry. Oh, she said that I enjoyed watching you get your hands dirty, and the flowers are beautiful. Yeah, that was our most recent garden journal. You know, it was really great. It was like really one of that first opportunity to get out there and dig into the ground and get my hands dirty and plant out those pea seeds. And then I also kind of started the whole show today with a little bit of a clip that I shared in the garden journal of some of those spring flowers that are popping up all over the place. In fact, they've been popping up for weeks now. I kind of mentioned that in the video too, that we've had some really record warm January and just a warm winter for us so far. In fact, I haven't seen any snow whatsoever in the valley that I live in so far this year. And that's just been kind of an interesting development as we're getting closer to spring now. So maybe a late one still, that's still always possible. But yeah, I haven't seen any of that. We've had record temperatures. So a lot of those flowers out there are just confused. They're confused. They don't know what to do. They don't know what time of year it is really. They're out weeks before they should. And also, as I mentioned too, my fruiting trees in our container, the thing I'm worried the most about is, whether or not those blossoms are going to succumb to some, heavier freezes that could still possibly happen, is they're starting to try to, pop out and pull out of those, their little winter dormancy, and come alive for spring. And yeah, so that's what I'm really worried about right now, depending on what kind of temperatures and whatnot that we're going to be seeing coming up here. All right. All right. And we've got with us a David Gray. David, awesome to see you here joining with us in the conversation. He says, I won't be buying any GMO seeds. I understand you. And like I said, I hold nothing against anybody who's not going to want to try it or not do anything when it comes to that sort of stuff. Like I said, it's it makes sense. Yeah, yeah. LP says same thing. I'll be steering clear of GMO. We'll ask people if they grow GMO yards before accepting seeds. And it makes sense. That's good. And maybe more so than, like I said, when it comes to with this one is like I said, I'm not too worried about two plant two edible plant partners who wouldn't normally cross with each other crossing, so I'm interested in that sort of stuff. I think those are interesting types of modifications, sort of as you can have fun with hybridizing and doing certain things, which are all other more natural modifications, mind you, but to kind of have some fun with some edible plants and some edible traits and things like that from edible plants, that's fine. I just don't want to be taking things from weird bacterias or weird animals or different things that are just kind of this strange kind of Dr. Moreau type things, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I don't know what we're really doing here, crossing some cheetah with a human being or something, that sort of stuff, really weird kind of things, but I don't find it, and this is just, again, my personal opinion, I don't think that crossing a couple of edible plants is going to be that much, for me personally, that big of a deal, and I'm interested in doing that sort of stuff. But now, again, too, going down the road though, because this is where the questions start coming up again, as I was talking about, is that going down the road though, and more of these other companies start releasing other types of modifications. Are these other modifications some weird, crazy types of stuff, and then at that point I want to know, and I want to know more about the crosses and what they are and that sort of stuff. LP, this is actually said, hello everyone listening in the bushes. I love hearing from all of you who are out there doing stuff and you're just listening along with us while you're outdoors or you're out doing things. So, a great thing, to do. Just join in and listen to the conversation, put us on your phone or something, set it up somewhere and just let it go while you're, sowing some seeds or mixing up some soil or, doing all sorts of different things, transplanting, all sorts of stuff. It's great. Great to have you here with us any way possible. Hmm. Hmm. Yep. LP there saying again too, as we talked about, even as we practice hybridization in our own gardens, we can't forge crosses between unrelated plants to be viable. There's just, if it doesn't naturally cross with it, then it's going to take a further bit of science in order to be able to accomplish that sort of thing. And because they're just not related to each other, and that's not going to happen naturally. And this here too, like others have said in other discussions, I'm in part concerned that yes, this is a Pandora's box, that this is a gateway to practices that are not in our best interest. And absolutely, and that's kind of what I was touching on a little bit there too in the discussion and in the conversation. Point being, ultimately, is that Pandora's box was already opened. There's nothing we can do about that. And if we know anything about the story of Pandora's box, it's done. You know what I mean? It's done. That happened back in the 80s, and that's just all in part of science. Funky, weird things, and scientists, the stories like I just mentioned just a minute ago, Dr. Moreau, that sort of thing. These weird, crazy ideas of science are always in some scientist's mind somewhere, and at some point they're going to develop something. They're going to make something happen, and then once that happens, that's happened. It's now learned and known knowledge, and from there we only go into another place with it. And I completely understand what you're saying there, LP, because that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of what I was trying to summarize with there, is just the ideas that we just now, because this Pandora's box has already been opened, we are going to now just have to start learning a little bit more, taking the time to understand a little bit more. And I understand again too, for a lot of folks out there, that it's just going to be absolutely not. And some people are going to be like, well, for sure, and some are going to be in all sorts of places in between. But there is a reality to some of the negative effects that could possibly be, in some of these other unnatural types of crosses that can happen, and we should be aware of those. We should be aware of those as they come on the market, but that's going to be on us. It's going to be on us as home gardeners, as the individual gardener, and what we do, in what we're in how we're purchasing, and what we're doing as far as bringing things into our gardens. Now, one thing that's really, too, about tomatoes, and the one thing I'm not worried about too, if I did bring this tomato into my garden and grow it, I'm not worried about it just crossing with my other tomatoes or infecting some of my other plants or anything. Tomatoes are not easy to cross. You really got to make some effort to do this. That's something that if I wanted to make a cross of this, I'm going to have to effectively, purposely do it. Now, if it was a pepper, we're going to have a little bit of concern, because peppers are going to cross with each other so easily. Corn crosses with each other so easily. So there are some of these other varieties and these other things that we are going to have to become more aware of and think more about as those things become released sometime down in the future, because again, it's going to happen. That Pandora's box has already been opened. Connie says it's going to be 91 degrees in Texas Monday. Holy moly, 91 degrees. Yeah, I'm so ready for that. I'm so ready for that. I was just telling one of the questions I got on this podcast I was on just the other day, or we just recorded the other day. We'll be on later on down the road. We'll talk about that when it comes up. But one of the questions they asked was, what plant do I relate to the most? And I was like, I relate to a sunflower the most. I love a hot summer day. I love being out in the sun, all day long, following the sun as it's going. I just love it. And 91 degrees sounds great to me. I don't care too much about the climate change aspects of things, as I've been bearing witness to over the last 7-8 years, even more now, here in the Rogue Valley where I live in Southern Oregon. But I love hot summer days. I'm not, you're not ever going to hear me complain on a hot day. I might put out a whew, as I might fan myself a little bit here and there. That does happen, you know what I mean? But I'm enjoying every bit of it. Yep, yep. Okay, let's see here. LP says I'm potting up some succulents while listening. Getting over a cold. Oh, I hope you get over that real soon. That's nothing worse than a cold, but gives you time to do some work with your succulents there too. I don't ever have any good luck with succulents, man. I'm telling you. You either can or you can't grow those things. I'm telling you. I'm on the can't right now. David Gray asks, do other countries have garden GMO seeds or any GMO seeds? In general, yeah, I mean, genetically modified seeds, a lot of these are really developed for uh, uh, growth and farming in places like Africa and things like that. These places where, food desert places, and trying to develop GMOs that grow in these really harsh conditions of those sort of places. There's some, a lot of that sort of stuff, and but there are a lot of countries, and especially a lot in Europe. In fact, Baker Creek mentioned that too. When In fact, they mentioned here, they say, when we previewed the Purple Galaxy tomato in our 2024 catalog, we believed it was scientifically confirmed to not be a GMO tomato. We sourced the seed from Purple Galaxy from a plant breeder in Europe, where GM tomatoes are not approved. So, so they sourced it from a place in Europe where, again, a lot of countries over there have laws prohibiting genetically modified plants and organisms and all that sort of stuff too, as well. So again, I'm sure they're available in lots of other places in other countries. I can really, really only tell you for sure about here in the States. I haven't done too much research on other actual places. Again, it's still the same question there, but are these tomatoes available in all countries or just the U.S.? And that's it. I'm suppose it's anywhere in the world. I'm sure that you have to order them from the UK. Is probably where they're coming from, unless they have a supply. Again, too, great questions. A little more digging into I need to do, and find out whether or not they might actually have a supplier here that they've already brought the seeds into the States. So again, maybe some little more digging on that question there for sure. But I do know that, genetically modified seeds in general are used in other countries throughout the world as well. So I'm sure where they're used there, they're probably able to purchase in those areas. But there might be some sourcing issues in some European countries that have laws. And then again, too, some of those laws, and I'm sure as some of this stuff is now changing. This is an industry moving situation. So the change, is something we'll probably see throughout the industry moving on down the road. And as the industry continues to change even more, so will laws, and so will things like that as well, too. And that all depends, locally more so than anything. Even for me here in the States, laws that have to do with my city or county, different from what the state, says, and the state different from what the country says, those sort of things. So really things are really more hyper local in that sort of sense as well too, that you have to be aware of as these sort of things are changing. Again too, this is the new landscape. This is the new landscape. This is where we are now, is in having to think about this stuff. It's not full swing yet. There's only one tomato. This is just one tomato so far, but there will be more down the road. Oh, and actually, here's something. Adam mentioned that Super Sweet Corn he buys from Johnny Seeds has terms and conditions as well. It's a patented seed they only sell. Yep. And see, and again, too, this is something we got to start getting used to as well. You talk about that Pepper X, the new record-breaking pepper. He is, these are not being released to the public until he can really assure himself of some sort of ownership of that, and being able to ensure that he has ways. I believe when he released the Carolina Reaper, he wasn't thinking about that much, and that just got out there. And there wasn't, and so he's probably working on some of those legalities of some of that sort of stuff when it comes to that. So there's all sorts of stuff. So, all these sort of things are changing on the landscape when it comes to gardening and growing. We just got to be a little bit more aware of what they are and what they mean ultimately too, in really understanding that sort of stuff, more so than just, for me, just an initial reaction. My initial reaction, as I talked about, as I was discussing in that rant earlier, was just GMOs are bad, negative. I don't like the stories I'm hearing. The science I'm reading about doesn't make sense. I don't like the idea ultimately that poisons are, it's allowing for more poisons and all that sort of stuff. And my initial thought when I heard about GMO tomato was like, oh my God. And then I started reading about it a little bit more and started to understand it just a little bit more. And I was like, okay, well, now that's just a little bit more interesting, because not only is it, again, too, the actual modification, but then it's also kind of the marketing and some of these other questions that I have around it, when it comes down to it. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see ultimately. But again, I'm fascinated. I'd love to check it out. Joe, what's going on, Joe? Grow Big TV. Awesome to see you here with us. Thanks for joining in with the conversation. We're getting in deep, talking some heavy stuff here today. But, that's the thing. We've got to talk about it. We got to get it out there more, have more discussions, and again, to dive a little bit more into some of these gray areas and get a little bit more information so that we all can really know and understand some of these things as we move forward and what's going to be best for us in our gardens. You know what I mean? These are all individual things that we have to be thinking about. And like I said, I fault no one for not wanting anything to do with it. And, I think it's interesting if, for home gardeners, and fault no one who wants to actually give them a shot, give them a try, have some fun with it in your garden. And again, too, I can't wait to see, we've got pictures of these tomatoes. Baker Creek put out this picture of the Purple Galaxy on the cover of their new catalog, and a deep purple is just so interesting. I want to see what that looks like in an actual tomato, And anybody who knows me and my tomato growing, I love growing dark tomatoes too. So, Darth X joining with us here too. Good to see you here, joining with us in the conversation. Says, send some of that Texas 90-degree heat right up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to be frosty next week. Oh my gosh, frosty. We're going to still got, I know I got some dips. There's some dips coming still for us here in the Rogue Valley in Southern Oregon. Still technically the Pacific Northwest, but, down at the bottom end there. And still some dips coming for us for sure. And I can't wait for that 90-degree heat either. I know my plants and everything aren't really happy about it, and I got to get a little bit better about some of my strategies and some of my skills in the heat tolerant gardening aspects of things. But we're getting, I got some strategies. I got some things we're going to do this year, but hopefully we'll see some good output and that sort of stuff. But again, it gets hot here. I mean, it gets hot here, and I'm looking forward to it. Garden, not so much. All right, let's see here. And again, Jay jumping in too. Awesome. Let's remind everybody one more time. New official launch of the full live cast, the Let's Get Growing show, full and complete with guests and everything, starting up again on March 9th. And also new announced today, March 10th, as well, as we're launching the new Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show. So we're not just a Saturday show anymore. We are a full weekend of gardening conversation right here on the Urban Gardener channel on the Let's Get Growing show. March 9th, we are starting our first show with our top guest of last year, Nate Murray from Garden Like a Viking. He's going to join with us for our very first show, and we'll have other special guests with us for our weekend launch. And again, like I said, you can come back and join with us on Sunday, same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. And we will have and launch the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show, which will be a little bit different than the Saturday edition. There's going to be some variety and some things about that, but I'm going to get a little bit more into the details of what we got growing on for Sunday and our Sunday edition here next week, as we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'm really excited about it. March 9th is when we'll get started. We've got lots of great guests that I am talking with and booking right now. One of them I'm really kind of excited about, and we're trying to, again, too, it's one of the more, I've touched on this just a little bit too, early in the show, was about the kind of the challenges of what it takes to kind of book people and to run a show with some of these great, awesome guests like we have. I mean, that's one of the things that makes our show stand out from other gardening live shows and live streams on YouTube. I love so many of them, and I'm just a huge fan of gardening channels and live streams and people who share gardening content, especially on YouTube. But I know that we have something really unique here on the Let's Get Growing show here with what we have and who we're able to bring on for all of these awesome gardening conversations. We've got lots more of them in store for this next season, and hopefully we'll get some really cool even kind of like fun weekends that are kind of subject weekends in a way too. One I'm planning on, I've got set to have the pepper guru of the pepper community, Johnny Scoville, to join us. He'll be one of our guests coming up. And I just, again, too, I'm spilling the beans. Is like, I can't hold this stuff in when it comes down to it. There's so many exciting things and people to talk about when it comes to what we have coming up. But thinking of like this really cool, fun, super hot, Spicy World of Pepper People Hulu show weekend, where we're going to have a bunch of guests on from that show, and a bunch of them are growers and pepper growers, and a few are pepper tasters and all of that. But we'll have as a special featured guest Johnny Scoville, and talk with him all about peppers and hot peppers and the whole spicy world in the pepper community. So those sort of types of things, I want to kind of have some of that stuff going on as we move through the season and year, as we have fun with these shows and all of these sort of great conversations that we're going to get to have. So really, again, too, come join with us, and definitely mark your calendar for March 9th. I want everybody here, 9 a.m. sharp. Let's have an awesome launch to the show. Let's get in and have some great conversations. And again, to really get out there and help share with everybody else out there too about our show, and let them know about these really great conversations we're having, and help us have some really great lively fun discussions with all these awesome people that are going to join with us here each and every weekend throughout the growing season starting March 9th. Awesome. Yes. Let's see. Excellent. Darthex says, garden like a Viking. Nate's got great tips. I'm adapting his onion planting techniques. Yeah, Nate's awesome, man. In fact, I get to follow him maybe just a little bit more than most people, because his live stream is right before my live stream. I mean, he ends his live stream about 20 minutes before we get started. So as I'm preparing for the show, as I'm getting things ready through my morning before the show gets started, I'm listening to his live stream that he does and his conversation and everything. And every now and then trying to jump in and say something or ask a question or something like that. But yeah, so I get to see him a lot. And it was really awesome that he's going to join with us for our first show of the year, because he was, out of all the great guests that we had last year, the most viewed show of the year. And let's see here. Did I miss this person? Oh, here we are. Here. There you are. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. It was really nice to meet you this week on Brampton Gardener's live stream. Awesome to see you. Wickershire Project Off Grid. It's fun to have a little conversation and talk with everybody and get to meet you there. Really glad to see you here on the live stream. LP says, awesome. Really enjoyed watching Super Hot. Yeah, it was really fun and interesting. I've met and talked with, and in fact, Jimmy Pickles, one of the main characters of the show in the long run, has been on my live streams and before. And in fact, he was on the live stream with me when we did the super hot taste test of our Primatali pepper we grew a couple of years ago. And so it was really fun to be able to watch these people like Johnny Scoville and Troy Primo in this show, and get to see them presented so well too. They did a really great job with putting that show together, tying in all these different elements and all that sort of stuff, and just really great. So I really enjoyed that. I binged that the day it came out, watched it all real quick. It was just so much fun. And again too, it's one of the more fun things I'm planning on here for our future discussions on our show, is to hopefully get some of those characters from that Super Hot show on Hulu on our show with us for a really fun Super Hots weekend. Grow Big TV says Super Hots was fun. Yeah, it was. And I know you know a few of those people too, Joe. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Looks like everybody's talking about, let's see, like raw. What do you say? Oh, not sowed my petunias yet either. Yeah. We still got things we're growing. And Cody says, your petunias are always beautiful. Yes. Awesome. Yes. In fact, so many things to grow in our get growing with in our gardens. I've got to get busy taking care of some of the things that I've got to grow here this afternoon. We went just a little bit longer today. In fact, we went probably almost a half an hour longer than we usually go for our normal show. Plus, we started almost, what was it, 20 some minutes late, I think we were. Had some technical issues there at the top of the show. But again, just a really great, fun conversation with everybody. It's just so awesome to have you all here joining with us each and every Saturday. Remember, we start right at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll be right back again too over these next few weeks as we are gearing up for the launch of our new season of shows. Wickshire says, I'm building soil for grow pot bags, manure like, well, oh yes, clay. Oh my gosh. Any point in adding perlite? I'm adding peat moss. Should I mix in sand? I say just a nice little bit of everything there. I like again too. We kind of touched on this with a question earlier in the show, kind of about mycorrhiza and all that sort of stuff, and talking about diversity and that sort of in the differences of those things. And I kind of think that's kind of a great thing when it comes to most things in general. I want a diversity of stuff, and same with my soil. I want all of that too. And really, if you're looking for grow pots and bags, you definitely want your soil to be well draining, and it's kind of you want this happy medium of both well draining, but you want it to retain soil. So definitely I'd put in some perlite. If you're adding in put that back up real quick here. If you're adding in peat moss and sand, I mean, I put all that stuff into my stuff. But yeah, if it's pots, you're trying to avoid as much of the clay as possible. If you're transferring some other type of stuff or other types of soil, but the goal ultimately, like I said, is to create a well draining soil that you can pour water into. It's going to let everything in excess go, but it's also going to retain just enough of what it needs in order to drink on for the next day or so, and or even more so during the hotter times of the seasons when we're watering just a little bit more. We don't want things saturated, but we want it to retain just enough in order to maintain a good level of moisture in your soil. So definitely. Okay. Oh, and he says there, yeah, too. I need to lighten and fluff up the mix. Definitely. Lighten and fluff it up, but at the same time, a lot of that stuff that kind of fluffens it up and lightens it up is also stuff that kind of retains and holds on to a lot of that moisture, whether that's the coco coir or the peat moss that you're using there. That stuff is like a good sponge. It just kind of sponges up and holds that stuff. But when you're adding like that perlite and those in that sand and those sort of things like there, that helps that stuff just kind of drain through as well too. So it helps create some of those spaces in there in order to help water flow through, and instead of just being a big giant sponge holding on to as much as possible. So lighten and fluff, but yet add those things in there too, and also to help drain off. Jay says, well, we got a pile of visitors at the end. I know, and it makes it so hard when we get to the point of the show where I'm like, all right, I think we're at the end here. And then all of a sudden we've got all of these great, awesome people joining in with us. But thank you so much. It is great to see all of you anyways, too. All right. All right. Awesome. Awesome. He's mentioned the manure there too as well. Okay, see that you're using. So it's 2-year-old compost, billion animals on the farm we visited. So it's just a variation of all sorts of stuff. So yeah, again, too good. It's that you've given it the time to 2-year composting is really good on that, based on the fact that you're saying that you've got a diversity of animals too as well that's mixed in there. So definitely making sure that it's well composted is going to, do really great for adding that into your soil mix for sure. He says that she had mega tonnage to give away for free. Got it for free. Filled the truck and it was creaking and screaming on the 25-mile trip back home. Yeah, yeah. Good, you got a good load of that though, too, though, man, for sure. Take advantage of whenever you can pick up free stuff, especially from farmers and those that are giving away things. Take advantage of that stuff most you can. I'd be loading down whatever truck I could find, and dragging the back end to get some free stuff if I have to. All right. And again, too, Jay, with a great notification here. Thanks to all for being here. We are having casual Saturday lives until a few weeks away. We get more formal with guests and programming and expand also to Sunday live streams. I'm so excited about all of this. I'm telling you. And like I said, be sure to join with us again next week, as I will dig in just a little bit more about what we're going to offer on Sundays, as well as a little bit more about what we've got growing on for our Saturday show as well too. And then from there, we're literally only going to be, I think, where are we anyways? What is it? Yeah, I mean, next week, and then the week after that's our first show. So we literally only got, I didn't even think about this whole time we were talking about that. So we really only have one more casual live stream then. We only have one more. Yikes. You know what I was actually thinking about too? I'll mention this as well. I used to do my first live streams. The whole idea for this show started from the fact that I did these live streams called Wednesdays Live. And it was just this. It was just me. In fact, I would sit down a little bit lower in the corner here with a few different plants, and just it was in this whole idea of using this space because I had all my it was my front room and I had all the plants out here, so it was cool. It made it, whatever was the best little background there and stuff. So I'd set up the camera and the live streams and just sit here and talk and discuss all sorts of things and stuff. So I don't know, maybe down the road we'll think about it a little bit more, and maybe I'll reintroduce the Wednesday evening live streams where we can do these sort of more casual sort of things, because again, too, over these last few weeks I've been really enjoying that. It's really fun to be able to sit here in the comment section and just kind of talk with all of you guys and see the comments and watch you guys talk with each other and all that sort of stuff. It's one of the real fun parts of the live stream aspect of the show, is that what we get to do here live with each other in the discussions, and how you guys get to conversate with each other as well too. So it's fun for me to be able to participate with that. But kind of as Jay was mentioning there with that last comment, is that there's a more formal aspect to the idea of what the Let's Get Growing show is. So a lot of times I'm trying to keep an eye on questions, and I'm trying to keep an eye on that sort of stuff in order to highlight certain things. So I'm doing my best I can with that while I'm having a conversation with people. So kind of like when I went on my little rant just a little bit earlier on all of that, I kind of have to kind of like focus a little bit more on what's going on and what's at hand. And so, I kind of have to let that roll. So there's just a little bit of aspect of that when it comes to what we're doing here with the live stream. I definitely make sure that we're getting your questions in with our guests, getting and posting up comments onto the screen as they're coming in, and interacting with guests. There will be parts of the show where we will do more of that sort of thing, but for the most part, it's kind of got this formal conversation with these guests that we got coming on here and discussing all these sort of great things that we have the opportunity to talk about. So So there's that aspect of it all. So it would be kind of cool maybe to kind of set up some sort of more informal discussion in chat and that sort of thing for some other type of live stream that we could do. I mean, could you imagine that 3 different live streams in the week? A Wednesday live kind of informal thing, and then a weekend gardening thing or something like that. I mean, these are all aspects, these are all things that are definitely possible to do. And if you think that's a great idea, let me know. I mean, get down in the comment section if you're watching the replay, or if you are here live, jump into the comments later, or here, and let me know what you think about these ideas. Let me know too. Get down in those comments. Let me know about people and guests who you think would be really great. Some of these gardeners out there that you look up to, that you think would be a really great conversation. Maybe someone you'd like to know just a little bit more about their background and their garden story and that sort of stuff that we can talk about here on the show. So definitely let me know about all of that sort of stuff. This is really, as I said, this is a live show. It's really viewer and listener driven. So I really rely on all of you guys to to help me keep this show going, to help keep our conversations moving along, to when we have our guests coming up here in a couple of weeks, to jumping in there and asking questions and participating with us, because I think that's what just makes this show so unique and so awesome, is this opportunity for us all to be able to to gather here together on the weekends now, and to be able to meet and discuss our favorite passion of gardening and growing, and talking with all of these really cool people. I can't say it enough. I sometimes I sound like a broken record, I'm sure, but it really means the world to me that you've all been here showing up each and every week and following along with all of our conversations here. And let's see here. Connie says, everyone have a great gardening week. Bye. Same from Rob's Allotment Gardening. Bye all. Take care and have a great week. Excellent. Jay responded saying, hey, thanks for being here the whole show. Thanks. And healing energy going your way, Rob. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, thank you all so much for being here, and definitely look forward to some more shows coming up here. I think we're going to wind everything down. I'm going to get moving on into my garden too. And before we end the show, though, too, while you're here, if you haven't already, real quick, hit that like button. Hit the thumbs up there, like our video, like our live stream, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that bell notification so you can follow all of our garden adventures here on the Urban Gardener channel. Check out our video homepage too. There we've got some new videos, some new garden journals that are out right now, and hopefully we'll continue to make sure that we keep putting some of those garden journals, and you can see what we've got growing on in our gardens through our videos there you can find on our homepage. And of course, be sure to share with all your friends. Like I said, I'm relying on all of you. This is a viewer and listener driven show, so let's drive this all in the right direction together with me here, and share with all of your friends, and make sure that they can come and join in on the conversation with us each and every weekend as well too. And again, also we are sponsored too, and we'll talk more about that as we move towards our regular show and the new season. Ivy Organics at ivyorganics.com, and go check out the things that they've got there. I do want to mention, actually, oh my gosh, now I feel bad because I was going to mention this here. Boom, let's do this. 7th annual free fig cutting giveaway. We only got, 5 days left. 5 days left. Check out the 7th annual free fig cutting giveaway. And I'm going to definitely be posting this a little bit more around on our socials and all of that sort of stuff. And we'll put on our community page for the YouTube page as well too. But go check them out at ivyorganics.com. Again, use the promo code GROW10 and get yourself some of their free fig cuttings that they're giving away right now for the next 5 days at ivyorganics.com. just really awesome. They do that each and every year and give out those free fig cuttings. And we'll do one more shout out real quick before we go to Sarah's Seed Shop. Check out Sarah's Seed Shop.com and go check out all these. She's got some really awesome seeds available for everybody there on her website, and for only 75 cents. I'm telling you, 75 cents, a little bit of shipping and handling, but if you buy a bunch at 75 cents, you're really saving a bunch of money. And not only that, you're going to get enough seed for about 2 or 3 regular seed packs that you would normally get. So you're going to get at least around 3 times more seed than what you would get from a regular seed pack, and at only 75 cents at sarahseedshop.com. So to go check out Sarah's Seed Shop. She's going to be helping us out with some stuff we'll talk a little bit more about too next week when we get back here for our show. But again, I've been having so much fun, really enjoying the conversation with everybody here. And again too, oh yeah, also thanks, Jay, for my comment moderation. Thanks for moderating altogether, Jay. You put in some really great work today, putting in all these awesome links for everybody to check out the sort of things that we're talking about throughout the show. And again, like Wickershire says, awesome. Thanks, Jay, for the link. See, that's what I'm saying. So again, hopefully we'll see all of you this next week. And I got to get out of here. I swear, I could probably keep on. I tell everybody this. When I get talking and I get going. I can go on and on and on. But I got things to do. I know you guys got things to do. So let's get moving on. And I'll see you all this next Saturday for what will be our last informal one-on-one gardening conversation and chat before we get started with the new Let's Get Growing show on March 9th. I'll see you all next Saturday.